Hi, I'm June Morrow, and welcome to this midweek sermon where I help you elevate your vibe by sharing what's been elevating mine. So this week's theme is transformation, right? It's spring, Easter is coming, and what better time for a transformation than when we're all stuck in our homes? Stick with me on this one. So this week started with Palm Sunday. And that's a day, according to Christians, when Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey and was greeted with legions of fans. And they were all waving these palm fronds, which is kind of like what happened last summer when the Raptors rode into Toronto and were welcomed back by legions of fans all waving these big foam fingers. Of course, this week there will be no Easter parade or a parade of any kind, but there is cause to celebrate. And if you're like, what you talking about, Willis? Well, here's what's going on. So when Jesus rode into Jerusalem with his proclamations of God's love for everyone, he shook up the status quo large. It was a turning point in history, just as right now we too are living through a turning point in history. And most turning points begin with a crisis. Now, this is as true of social history as it is of personal histories. And sometimes it's during those crises or slightly after, in those moments where it feels like nothing seems to be happening, that the most profound changes or shifts actually take place. And they take place just below the surface. So it's June 2018, and I'd just broken up with someone I loved very, very much. I wanted a future with this guy. We'd been together for 2 years, but he didn't see the same future with me. And I knew deep in my heart that staying with him under his terms would keep me playing small and keep me from my destiny. And I just couldn't do that. So I ended it. And what followed was possibly the worst heartbreak I'd ever felt in my life. It was like every single heartbreak, every single disappointment, everything I'd ever gone through, all my grief, compounded by 100, decided to relive itself, right? And all this loneliness, this loss, this sorrow, this deep, deep, deep sadness came up in the months that followed, and it washed over me in waves. And I let it. I didn't go out much. I didn't really distract myself. I didn't date very much. I cried. I went to work. I went for walks. I came home. I cried. I went to went for walks. I went to work. And, on the outside, it seemed like nothing was happening in my life. But really what was happening were there was some profound shifts, some profound opening going on as I slowed down and kind of grieved the past. Leonard Cohen famously said, there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And in my crack, I really started connecting with God on a deeper level, and I started to hear my calling. And that is when I started to wake up. But what does this mean, to wake up? A lot of people say this term, wake up. So to wake up means to remember that you are a spiritual being having a human experience. To wake up means to recognize that your thoughts create your reality, not the other way around, and that you can create your thoughts, which means you can create your reality. And to wake up means to see through the illusion of separateness and recognize that you are an emanation of the same divine energy that we are all an emanation of. So to wake up means to recognize that we are one. And this is the purpose of what's happening right now. We are at a point in history where we're all being called collectively to wake up. And yes, it might look like nothing's happening, right? No one's traveling, no one's going anywhere. We're all just kind of hunkering down. But there are shifts underway. There is a letting go of the old. And in this seemingly fallow time, in this time of having to stay home and go inward, in this time, we are being asked to recognize the cracks in everything, because that is where the light gets through. So we're actually on the cusp of a new world order, and that is something to celebrate. Like 300 years ago, humankind, getting my water, entered the age of reason. And rationality became the prevailing approach to government, to the economy, to medicine, to our spiritual practices, to the way everything was set up. And, at that time, up until recently, things could have an effect on other things, but things were seen as distinct, right? As separate, as standing alone, material objects and individuals, right? And what's happening now is we are waking up to the fact that we are not separate. Science is proving this. And a sneeze in China is being felt around the world. Almost every form of religion has some form of the golden rule, which is to love others as you would love yourself. But we've forgotten this. We've been asleep. And now, thanks to COVID-19, we're being reminded that we are as responsible for other people as we are for ourselves. We are as responsible for other people as we are for ourselves, just as they are for us. And this, I believe, is the purpose of this crisis on both a personal and a global level. We are going through a breakup, people. We are going through a breakup with the world that has been. And this crisis is here so that we can grow, so that we can get beyond the fear, so we can let go of those things that are no longer working, so that we can grieve the old world if we have to, and then recognize what is still here, which is you. The you behind your thoughts. And then we can get to work building a new reality, right? We're being forced to go inside, literally and metaphorically, so that we can hear the thoughts we've been thinking and ask ourselves, are those the kind of thoughts I want? Are those the kind of thoughts that will create the world I want to live in? For the first time in the modern age, the world is uniting against a common enemy. We are working together, and what an amazing opportunity this is to lay the foundation so that we can keep working together. Because the old world is crumbling. And that's not just from this virus. Look what's been happening over the past decade, right? Black Lives Matter, Me Too, Occupy Wall Street, remember that? All these truths that were never spoken before in polite company are coming to the surface. And why are they coming to the surface? Because people are feeling brave enough to do this, right? They're elevating enough to speak their truth. And that is allowing other people to speak their truth. And that's helping us see that we are not alone. We are not separate, right? Other people have the same truth as we do. And there are systems out there that are not serving us. Economic systems, including medical capitalism, that places wealth over human lives. Political systems that don't reflect the best interests of people, of animal, or of the environment that we all depend on. Media systems that perpetrate fear and separation and being lost in other people's stories 24 hours a day. And yes, even spiritual systems that purport to love everyone equally, except LGBTQ people, of course, or people with other religious systems. Fear is the wrong use of imagination. But the right use of imagination, or righteousness, is creation for the benefit of all. And we might not see it now, but there is a lot of innovation being germinated right now when we all have all this time to think, right? Nothing is more dangerous than giving people time to think. So provided we give ourselves time to think, right? Provided we turn off the TV, turn off social media, turn off the news, turn off the noise. Give yourself some room to feel and to breathe and to think about what kind of world do you want to live in? People are talking about the new normal, but do you want to go back to the normal? If a boyfriend or girlfriend or a spouse does not have your best interests at heart, do you return to them simply because that's what you know? Because that's what's comfortable? When Jesus rode into Jerusalem, a lot of people were celebrating, but there were people, particularly those in power, who did not like it. And 5 days later, he was crucified for threatening the status quo. However, his death was not in vain. He rose from the dead, and in doing so, He showed us that we too can rise. We can rise from treacherous circumstances. We can rise from unfair circumstances. We can rise from circumstances that do not put love and humanity and goodness for all at the center of everything we do. He showed us that we can take those times when it seems like nothing is happening, right? He was in a cave, man. People thought he was dead. They thought it was old news. And we can use those times to become the purest and the best and the most authentic versions of ourselves. Crisis can keep you down, or it can help you rise up. Which will you choose this week? I know what I'll be doing. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like or a love. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my channel. And if you're not already, please join my spiritual community on Facebook, the Wayfinders Club. And if you feel like you might be going through a process of waking up to a spiritual mission, and you're like, what the F is going on? How do I fit this in with the rest of my life? I would love to help you connect with your calling and connect with yourself by connecting with me with a complimentary 45-minute call. The link is below. Namaste. The divine in me salutes the divine in you. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay connected, stay you.